All right, we are back. It is part 6, I think. No, it is part 6 of our
Yep.
Hockey Cards 101 series, where our goal is to help new collectors or maybe people that have been out of the hobby for a little bit catch back up or learn the very aspects and categories of the hockey card collecting hobby and provide a little bit of that basic information that never seems to be out there for anyone. So, if we can provide at least a head start on these topics, then Troy and I are very, very happy. My name is Josh. I'm here with Troy. What's going on, Troy?
Not a whole lot. Excited to do this one. I think we've been pushing this one off for a little too long. We've gotten so many questions about it, and now it's time to go at it.
Okay. We're going to get right into it. So, our topic today is breaking. We want to give an introduction to hockey card breaking. And it's a very interesting topic to me in the hobby because I think most collectors are aware that breaking exists and have heard of it. But I also think that there's a large percentage of collectors that still really don't know how breaking works or have even tried it. So, that's our goal today, to get through the basics of breaking, understand how it works, and how to have fun doing it or be most successful if you're a collector and decide maybe you'd like to give it a try. And because, Troy, we're not experts in, well, really anything, we've invited an expert, a friend of the show, Breezy the Breaker, on to help us and guide us through the conversation. And he'll give you guys some great tips, some do's, don'ts, and straight from the mouth from one of the leading breakers in the hobby. What's up, Breezy? How's it going, bud?
Did you miss me? I'm back.
Yeah, it's been about a year. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I missed you guys. I can't believe that we did this a year ago.
We've
Nuts.
said this a number of times, if you've been, I guess, a diehard listener to our show, that we started our show almost to the day that Breezy started breaking on Whatnot, which is kind of
Yep.
crazy to think about. So it's been about 18 months now. And Breezy has grown a pretty big community on that platform. He has 9,100 followers on Whatnot, 10,900 5-star reviews, which is pretty amazing. And I'm just going to say it because what this is public information on Whatnot, but it blows my mind. I'm sure it blows your mind too, Breezy. He's sold now in 18 months 61,300 break spots. That is a lot of mail, Breezy.
That's a lot of mail. That is a lot of mail. Thank God I have Charlie that takes care of all that back end work and does all the packaging, because I can't do it by myself. That's for sure.
But Charlie's recent, right? Now with you were doing this all by yourself before.
Yeah, when we first talked, I was a one-man show.
Yeah.
Like Jan, and then from January till now, he's been helping me, and he's the main reason that I could even do half of what I do during the day and the night, because to do that by yourself is in and not doable.
Okay, so I gave kind of some of the stats, but if people are unfamiliar with you or haven't watched one of your breaks, maybe spend a minute or two kind of giving your backstory and including how you got into hockey card breaking.
Yeah. Let's see. I was sponsored by NHL for EA Sports for the video game. Told you guys that in the first interview, but yeah, so my background was the hockey, the video game. I streamed on Twitch, and then my brother kind of got me back into the hockey card hobby. He was doing like Pokemon, but then he was going to Target, getting like the football blasters, all that. So we came out one day and we did I think it was like blasters. We did like a football break on Twitch, and I was like, dude, like I like this. And he met up with his LCS and he started breaking on Whatnot from his LCS, and then he got me on Whatnot. And I figured I would just take the NHL background from the video game and just carry my audience over to Whatnot. And yeah, now I'm live every single night breaking hockey cards. And it's, I wouldn't change it for the world. I love it.
But and what I really love about your story, and I don't say this to offend you, of course, in any way or embarrass you in any way, because like I said, we started together. Troy and I had never done a podcast. We just went and bought microphones and hit record and kind of, winged it from there. And I remember finding you really early on too, where you hadn't even mastered the art of putting a card in a sleeve at that
Yeah.
point. That used to be a little bit of your running joke. And so if you think about, okay, here's a guy who just had an interest, like you said, your brother got you into it. You thought, oh, this is something I like. This is something I can translate from my experience as a streamer in NHL, EA's, the video game world. and you really kind of like us had to learn on the fly, huh?
I mean, yeah, I guess you really just have no choice, right? You study a little bit, and then as soon as you hit that, like you guys, you hit that start recording button. I hit the start streaming button. It's like you got no choice. You got to pick it up immediately because you don't want to look like a fool. Sometimes you do. It's okay. They'll just make fun of you for it and they'll move on.
Oh yeah, we get that a lot. We
Yeah.
still get that a lot.
Yeah, we can't
Yep.
pronounce any names, so that's our thing. Okay, well, I want to get into let's talk about breaking. And again, in Hockey Cards 101, we want to make this very basic. We want to give people, really, like you said, it's intended for people that are really not familiar with the topic. So this is kind of like a big loaded question, I know, but if I asked you, Breezy, what is breaking? How would you describe it?
I mean, we all know that boxes can sometimes cost tons and tons of money. This is like your one way to get with a group of people and pay a fraction of a cost for the hockey cards that can come out of this box. I mean, not many people have $1,000 to just blow on, a box of the cup, which is the highest end hockey product that you can buy. But if a break spot is $50 and you have a chance to taste one of these cards, I mean, you could just see the appeal right there. You could hit a five, six, $10,000 card for $50. So breaking is basically like, just a group of people that all want to, share a bunch of boxes and for a little bit cheaper than what it would cost to buy all the boxes, I guess.
Yeah, so in breaking, you're buying either, and we'll kind of get into in more detail how the different types of breaks work, but you're either buying what they call it a spot, right? And that
Yep.
spot could consist of, usually, normally is a team. There's different types of breaks, but most often as a team. And so if there's, 31, 32 teams in the NHL, then you would end up with one of those teams, and any card that comes out of that box, you would get that card out of that break. And like in the example you gave of a cup, where it's $1,000 for the box, you get 6 cards. There's a lot of inherent risk. There's a lot of
Yes.
reward too, but there's a lot of inherent risk that comes with that box. Well, here's a way to participate in opening that box while not spending $100,000. Maybe you're spending, I don't know, 50, 60, 70, something like that for for that box, and um, you know, having much less risk. Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah. I mean, that's perfect. Like you said, you could put $10,000 worth of product on the table. The average person's not going to spend $10,000 on those boxes, but to get a group of people together and pay, whatever it is, 100 each, and take a chance at getting some cards, having some fun, that's what breaking's all about. Number one, I guess, is the fun, right? Number two, I mean, that's the gamble.
Well, I think that there's a lot in what you just said that is really important to understand about breaking. And the first is that it not only gives you the opportunity to get into a single box that may be out of your price range for a fraction of that price, but typically what a breaker will do is they'll put multiple boxes on what's called the table, right? So that's because the camera is usually showing a table, and they open the
Yep.
cards on the table there, and so you have maybe it's the cup and OPG Platinum and a box of SP Authentic. And so if you have a favorite team or a favorite player, you can sort of chase that player within a break through multiple boxes and a variety of products that would cost you a lot of money if you went and bought those boxes individually. And so I think that that's one of the inherent appeals of breaking. And then I think the other thing too is one of the more important points, and I should say, throughout this conversation, our objective is not to advocate, should you break? I'm sure Breezy wants you to break because that's his business, and I know you believe in it, but we're not trying to necessarily convince somebody to do it. Our goal is
Right.
to really just kind of give you the information as to this is why people do it, this is why it's popular, and the element that I really want to stress within that is the whole fun thing, and because Troy and I have talked just a lot, and you can chime in here too, Troy, but that's a part of it. It's part of being in what's called the room. So if you're in like a online where the chat is, where people get to know each other. It's kind of like hanging out with sort of online friends, I guess, at some perspective. I think to me, to really kind of get the most benefit out of breaking, that you have to kind of come at it from that approach where, yes, I'm trying to get some cards, but I also know that part of the money I'm spending goes is for entertainment too. So Troy, I'll let you
Right.
chime in, and then Breezy, you can chime in after that.
No,
Do you have anything to add?
you hit exactly what I was going to say. Part of when I go into breaks, obviously it's to have fun, and I look at the cost as just the cost of entertainment. Yes, I'm going to get some cards, but I like having a good time. I like watching. I like listening. It's what
Yeah.
I mean. Obviously, Breezy, we've known you for a while. It's one of the first things that drew me to your room was just how funny it was and how everyone in that room seemed to be talking and kind of ripping on each other. And it was one of those rooms I just had a lot of fun, and that's why I stayed watching it. And then I would start
Appreciate.
jumping in every once in a while. And I don't know
Yeah.
if you remember, I had the old name of what was it, Herbie 14. That was my first name because it was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
baseball and
Yep.
Kent
Yep.
Herbeck and
I
then all
remember
that
that.
stuff. Yeah, but it's like to me, it's entertainment. It's the cost of entertainment. So
I
that's
mean,
you,
what you both said. It's like, if you go into a break room and the break is a little bit out of your budget, like I wouldn't say get discouraged because you can't get in. I mean, who doesn't like watching a bunch of hockey cards get ripped? I don't care if you have the money for it, don't have the money for it. Dude, I'll sit there all day and watch somebody rip hockey cards just to see what comes out. You know what I mean? And then if there's 50, 60, 100 people in the room, you're hanging out with 100 people that all share the same interests. Doesn't matter if you're in the break, not in the break. It's just a fun time. You could chime in on the chat, share your knowledge in the chat, share your hockey knowledge, talk. Like it's just all about like what's the word? Like a camaraderie of
Yeah.
just a group of people just hanging out, all liking the same thing.
Well, you'll hear often breakers talk about their customers more so as their community. Do you agree with that? Is that how you approach it too?
Yes, I think I have, no offense to any other breaker on Whatnot. I think I have the best room on the entire app, the best community on the entire app. That's not even close.
I think so too. Like when you're trying to decide, is breaking right for me, there's almost like two levels that I can think of for that. It's something that interests you or it doesn't. There's a certain type of collector that honestly you should just buy singles because they don't like any sort of risk. And as just as much of a risk or quote unquote like gambling breaking could be, the same almost applies to opening boxes. We do a lot of pack opening videos.
I
And
love.
when you get these boxes like Ultimate or Black Diamond that have four, five, six cards in them, it feels very much like gambling too. Just buying the
Oh yeah,
box and opening because yeah, you can hit that life changing card, but more often than not, you're going to be a little bit disappointed with the result in it too. And I think as part of that, Breezy, that there are some products that really almost even can you could make the argument make more sense for breaking. Like maybe
yeah,
Ultimate is a good one where it's like, well, because I think like a guy like you would probably put, and you can speak to this, other products on the table because isn't the sort of the idea that you want to design a break and add the boxes where as many people as possible can have the opportunity to get good cards, right? So you might
yeah,
put a box of Ultimate, then a box of Platinum on there that has a lot more packs and a lot more hits. Is that sort of how you look at it?
yeah. I look at it as like those bigger products that don't have many cards. When you think of like Stature, Black Diamond, Ultimate, I look at those as like that's a good cherry on top of the break. Like if you put, Platinum, we've seen tons of cards come out, SPA, like SP Authentic. If you have those into a break and then boom, you put an Ultimate on top or two Ultimates on top, it's like they're waiting for those last couple boxes right there to see if they can hit the main hit. I mean, a lot of the times my room doesn't care. They want to just go full speed ahead. Just give me 20 boxes of Ultimate. We don't care what if we get nothing or we're just going for something big. But the ideal break, in my opinion, is to, like you said, to have the most amount of cards possible per person. And then if they want that extra premium product, you throw one on top so they can go for
Yeah,
something
I think
big.
that's a smart way to look at it. Well, let's get into the different types of breaks because there's not just one. And I'll kind of have you explain here. But to me, the most common, geez, are random and pick your team. Do you want to kind of describe what those are and then maybe throw in some other break style types that you might
Yeah.
typically do?
Yeah. So my favorite type of break, I think, is like a community favorite is a pick your team, because let's say you like the Wild, you buy the Wild in the break. So all the boxes on the table, any wild card that comes out, you get that. So I'm assuming if you buy the Wild, that's your PC collection, your personal collection. You could hit 1, 2, 5 cards for the Wild. At least if you hit something, you feel like you got something for your personal collection. You know what I mean? And that's why I favor pick your team breaks right now. And then you have the random breaks, which is everybody pays the same amount of money. Let's say it's a $30 break spot. Then the names and the teams get randomized on random.org. And then whatever team you end up with, that's the team you would get all the cards for. So you're taking a risk of maybe getting a team that you don't like as much as your favorite team, but you're getting into the break for a lot cheaper.
Mhm.
Pick your team break, the teams with the highest value, like most chances to hit, like let's say the Ducks with Zegras, in that year, the Ducks might be $200, but a random team break, it might be $40 for a chance to get the Ducks. So it's there's kind of pros and cons to it. There's pros and cons.
Yeah, and so how that work, and then is there any other type of break, or is it random and pick your team? Are those like
So
overwhelmingly the most common?
those are the most common. Those are the only two that I do, but there is other types of breaks. I've seen people do pick your player. So you can
Mm.
go through the whole
Yeah.
checklist, like let's just say ultimate, and then every single player has a price. I've seen people do hit select. So you can do like, you can buy the autos, you can buy the jersey cards, you can buy the
Mm.
numbered cards, buy the base cards, um, divisionals. You
Yeah.
can buy in 4 divisions, and every division you get a certain division, stuff like that. Hit drafts is another good one. Yeah, I guess there's more than I thought, but yeah, hit drafts is
Well,
another good one too.
I figure there's a billion ways probably people can
Yeah,
make a break. The other ones I've seen are serial number, where you take the right side of the number. It can be
yep,
0 through 9, and if the card comes out and it's 11, whoever had the one gets
yeah.
that
That's
because they had the one on the right hand side. And then
I guess
what was the other one I
it
was
all
thinking of?
it all depends how many people you got to break.
Yeah,
Sometimes only 10 people want to break, and you gotta adjust to what they want to do. You need 32 people pretty much to fill a break. So if you got 10 that want to do
yep,
it, you know, dial it down a
yeah.
little.
Well, I think too, and now I've seen where even people are getting crazier with I don't even know what they call it. They're doing cards and rows of cards, and you're trying like it's almost like you're building on to, and it's just getting a little crazy. I can't even explain
Yeah,
what they're doing, but I think the
yeah,
takeaway is that we know what the common ones, the big ones are. There's 100 other ways you can probably structure a break if you just sit there and think about it. But just
yeah.
know that there if there's something that excites you, there's probably a way to find it somewhere.
Well, I think that's too hard part of how breakers compete in
Yeah.
some way with each other because you're all opening the same boxes, and so and this is kind of, I think it's a good thing. There's a lot of like little innovative pushes or that you'll see throughout where this breaker will try to put this little wrinkle on it and that little wrinkle. But and this is just my opinion, Breezy. You can agree or disagree, but I think at the end of the day that some of that can get a little gimmicky at times. That if my advice to any breaker would to be just focus on the core elements of breaking, do it very well, and be entertaining to your audience, and you'll be fine. You don't have to have the most unique break known to man.
I mean, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Like I've come up with a lot of different things on the app because there's only so much creativity that you can do, right? Before it starts getting ridiculous. One thing I don't like is like I don't want to go into a break room and see 900 post-its all over the wall, and it's like, if you bid this, you get this, and over the top respin that. It gets way too confusing. I like to keep it to the core, just here's the spot, you buy in. If you want 2 teams, you pay for 2 teams. It keeps it nice and simple, and that's it.
Okay, so the breaker will design the break. They'll pick up boxes. They'll put those boxes that break up for sale in either spots, most often by random team or by pick your team. If it's random team, it'll have one price, and then the teams are randomized to when that break fills. Which when they say a break fills, that means every spot is full and the cards are ready to be open. Or pick your team, which maybe the Wild are $40 and the Anaheim Ducks, like in your case, are $200. And once all those spots are sold, then the teams are already assigned to based on whoever bought those spots. What we've seen too, Breezy, is that there's really kind of two ways people or platforms that people do breaks on. It's either like live platforms, like Whatnot would be an example of one, or people will do recorded breaks where it's they sell the spots, they're full, then they record opening the box and they display that video. But I think more and more it's going to live. So I just kind of want to take people through the process in a live break. So somebody would, like in the case of Whatnot, they would come to the app, they would look in the hockey section and see, oh, here's the hockey breakers, and they might find Breezy the Breaker and come into your room. And at that point, things are kind of already moving.
Mhm.
And then I guess they have to, you'd have to wait until, you might be mid process in a break, and you might pre-sell some spots or you might sell spots live, right? You kind of do both.
Right. Yeah, I'll do like, I'll have like a pre-fill up, like I have one right now, and majority of the spots will get taken before I go live, and then I'll go live and I'll rip that one, and then I'll put another one up as I'm ripping that one. So gives people the opportunity to buy in while I'm ripping the one before that.
And I think that's an element of breaking too, that if you haven't done it before, there's a little bit of a process of waiting, especially if you're buying the spot in the app. You might have to wait till the other cards were open or till the next break fills. And then once it's filled, then the teams are assigned. And then another element too that we should probably talk about is, I guess this happens more in the case of random, because I don't know why you'd want to do it and pick your team, but you'll let people trade their teams too,
Of
right?
course. Yeah, because I'm a lot of times for the random gamble, people will buy a couple spots just to give them a better chance to hit that one team they've been looking for. So they might now have like three spots and they might be willing to give up like a 3-for-1 trade to get the team that they wanted. So you always got to let them get a chance to get the team that they were chasing in the first place.
Mhm. And then, so the spots are filled, the teams are assigned, you've let people trade. Then you'll actually go in and you'll start opening the cards
Mhm.
live on camera. And this is, I think, where we should probably spend a minute or two kind of talking about from like the customer, like my side, like what should I expect from a breaker? Like the obvious one I'll throw out there is that as a breaker, you can never take the cards off the screen.
Yeah.
Right, and so just maybe you can kind of talk us through, like as a breaker, how do you make sure that or how do you or how do I know as a customer that a break is being executed properly?
So I mean, there's been so many things like I'm sure a lot of people have seen the videos of like all the scams that go around, but like as long as you have the right camera setup, as long as you're like I'm sitting at my setup right now, but it's in front of me, you guys don't see it. As long as you could see thing and I'm on camera now on the stream, right? So if I try to take something, like they're looking at me like you guys are looking at me right now. So you gotta trust the breaker. You gotta make sure you can see everything. Everything has to be on the screen. Um, yeah, you just gotta if they're a reputable breaker, the odds are they're not gonna destroy their company over a card that's worth a little bit of money. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's
And
gotta
when
it's
you well, this when you say the on the screen stuff, like you can open them as long as they're open, like box stays on the screen, you open it on screen, then you can move it off because you have video recording of it open and you move it
yeah,
off to make room, or Charlie
right.
starts doing all his work on the side, or whoever employee people have. But yeah, it's when it gets a little dicey is when you see these breakers that might take a pack open and then all of a sudden the cards go off the screen and all of a sudden
Yeah,
something's happening and that.
slipping packs off the screen or slipping cards off the screen. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
why
yeah.
people try to get away with it, but it's weird.
And there's always a few bad apples. But
Yeah.
I think too, beyond that, there is like a protocol, like every quote unquote like hit, which is usually like an insert or rookie or a parallel or one of the valuable cards in the pack, they should always be penny sleeve. Like how do you
Oh,
decide what cards to penny sleeve versus put in a top loader?
anything with value, it takes me a little bit. Like when a product first comes out, I'll top load as much as possible, and then as I'm going through it, I'll be like, okay, well, that's very common. That usually every insert, every hit is a penny sleeve at least, and then if it's a rookie or a top guy, you're throwing it in a top loader as you see like the rarity and how much the cards really are. But everything that looks different, that's not a base card, should definitely be in a penny sleeve at least.
And I think I want to throw in there too that sometimes breakers move really fast because you guys open tons of cards and you see them. And so I think too, it's very appropriate for anyone that's participating in a break. If you missed a card or missed something, that it's appropriate right in the chat to go and ask the breaker,
Oh
what
yeah,
was in that last pack, or can you show me that hit, or stuff like
of
that,
course.
right?
You should never feel like you aren't allowed to talk in the chat. There's been plenty of time. I rip very fast. I'll admit it. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. It's just what my room wants me to do. But sometimes I will miss a card. It's happened multiple times, and they're like, "Oh, go back. There was a young gun in there," or "Go back. There was an insert." Granted, I would find those cards when we're sorting. I'm not going to steal a young gun that's worth $20 or $50, but we would eventually find that. But you should never not feel like you can't tell the breaker he might have just missed the card. Even if I didn't, you shouldn't feel like you're going to look like an idiot because you were wrong. Make me
Mhm.
double check. It happens. People make mistakes.
One of the things I've noticed too, from an expectation standpoint, is really probably within the last year. I don't know many breakers that send base cards anymore. And so, is that still a thing, or do
So
you just
I,
send the quote unquote the hits?
I noticed that like I noticed I was like kind of one of the first ones that did that. I don't know if you guys remembered, but like back when I first started, a little bit into it, I would write like on the break sheet with the prices, I would write no base. And I mean the reason because like it was taking me forever to like sort base. Like you go through like these flagship breaks where it's like series 1, series 2, and all this base is just, it's crazy. Granted, you should get what you paid for, but when 99% of the room doesn't want it, it's it becomes a thing where like, do you really need to ship it? I'll ask people. I'll be like, do you want base just in case you collect the sets? But yeah, I mean, when we're doing the packaging, like when my employees are doing the packaging, we always ship like a little stack of base anyway. So even if there wasn't base in the break, if we have base laying around, we'll put a little bit just to protect the cards in there. So you technically are always getting base. I'm just not
Yeah.
sorting it and team base.
Now, if somebody asks you specifically, because maybe they are a set collector, to send the base, is that something that you will do for people? Is that something you think breakers should accommodate collectors with?
Yeah, they should. I got my post-it notes right here. I write my little notes down. If somebody says they want base for their kids or they collect the sets, I write it down, give it to my sorters, and they'll go through the base and get it for them. If you need
So
to,
you
you need to.
so you open the cards in the break. While I'm watching the break, I see the cards I get, and then you have to go through and sort and ship all that. As a consumer, what should my expect like? What do you think is a fair expectation for when I should receive my cards?
I guess a lot of it is depending where you live, but one thing I do and have always done is I ship next day every day. So when you come into my stream and you see me breaking, um, the breaks that I'm breaking that night, my employees are sleeving them, sorting them, packaging them. I could be on the third break and 1 and 2 are already like team bagged up and ready to go in the mail. So at the end of the night, they're all done. So in the morning when they wake up, they just take the bags to the post office. They're shipped out the next day, and depending on where you are from me, you can get your cards in 2 days.
Mhm.
You know. So I
And I think
mean,
that this is also another area where you can competitively differentiate yourself as a breaker for someone else. Where if breaker A sends cards a week later,
yeah.
right, which still may be quote unquote acceptable, depending on your interpretation of that. But that's I guess as a breaker, if being speedy in getting those cards out is definitely a way that you can probably better take care of your audience. Anything else about the mechanics of breaking that we kind of haven't thought of that someone that's never done it might need to know?
Well, number one was the biggest thing. Like, don't be scared to ask the questions
Yeah.
because the best you're gonna get is directly from me. Number one, because it's my room. I'll tell you exactly what needs to be done. Um, but yeah, just I would watch. I would join the room and watch a couple breaks before you decide to get in one, and then yeah, once you finally make that push to join a break, ask your questions, see the team you ended up with, and just watch it. If just have fun doing it too. Just hope
Mhm.
your team hits, and then in a couple days you'll have the mail and you'll have some new cards hopefully.
Well, I think there's a couple things there that I want to comment on, and that kind of bring transitions us into how to choose a breaker or how to choose a break that might be right for you. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. Don't just jump in a room and buy a spot as somebody you've never been. Watch, see how see if it's entertaining, if it's fun. See it, make sure that they kind of act according to the customs and norms as a breaker
Right.
should act. And then there's lots of tools also that, like we referenced from you, that Whatnot has built in for ratings and reviews. You can see, I'm sure why they publish how many spots you've sold is because that gives somebody confidence that, okay, this guy's done this 60,000 times. He
Right.
should know what he's doing. And with the 5-star rating, that means that people generally have a positive experience in breaking with you. And I think the other thing that you highlighted that's really important is asking those questions. And I think too, one area where people probably maybe I wish that in all the breaks I watch that people would ask more is, when it comes down to the specific bog, you might have a break that has what is a common breezer, like maybe 4 or 5 different products in it. Is
Yeah.
that uncommon to have? And actually asking the breaker, what are the, if I'm interested in the wild, what can I hit in these
Yeah. Well,
boxes? Because
like, what are my odds here? Like, yeah, ask those questions for sure.
you guys open more hockey cards than anyone on earth. And so
I'd like.
you're pretty much experts
Yeah.
at those boxes. And so I think that that's a resource that people don't take advantage of enough, and kind of leveraging your expertise here. Because and I would hope with other breakers, but I've noticed with you is that you're pretty honest with people about, this
Yeah.
isn't maybe the best break for the wild, but I'm going to do one maybe
Of course.
tomorrow or something like that. That would be a better option.
Yeah. You gotta have some sort of integrity and honesty, and you gotta be open about it. If I pull somebody a card that's $2, I'm not gonna yell and scream and make them think that it's a $50 card. You know what I mean? That's never been what I do. I want them to have fun. I want them to know they hit that card, but they didn't just get rich off a $2 card. Um, but yeah, just being upfront with your buyers, and there's no reason to lie about anything. Just be fully transparent, and you'll be successful. Like you said, I mean, if I rip $100,000 worth of hockey products in a week, I mean, who really else is doing that? So the one person that's going to know what's in these boxes is me, if you ask me, because the average person's not going to rip $100,000 in cards.
Oh, 100%. So I got a tough question for you, and this is something that I've struggled with too. And even as I've learned more and more about cards, it tends to be a controversial topic amongst breakers. It's one of the things that I've seen breakers jab at each other probably the most is if I come into your room and I see, and you've got, you'll have a mix of different products on the table, and it's hard to really understand maybe, how do I know what's a good or fair spot price on a break?
Um, that question is always going to be a tough one, because that comes with like outsourcing, like for the product, like what
Hmm.
people get. Everybody pays a different amount, like, right, if you get your
Yeah.
products from Adams, um it might be high, but if you go to your LCS and you buy the cases that they were allocated, I guess we should explain that too, but it might be cheaper at the LCS. But a person like me, what is two cheap cases from the LCS going to really do for me when my orders have to be 50 cases, 100 cases? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so breakers and people like in the hobby, they like to pick people apart sometimes for pricing and say like, oh, my break is $2 cheaper. Why would you buy with him? Or I have better prices than him, blah blah blah. But what Troy was saying before is like, sometimes it doesn't matter. Like, we all get different prices, and if my breaks fill in 5 seconds rather than 5 hours, you're paying for that premium. If
Hmm.
my room is fun, I have 100 people in there, we're all having a good time, you're paying for that premium. Now, would you pay the $2 extra to get a bunch of breaks in an hour instead of one break every 5 hours? You know what I mean? And you don't know what I pay. I pay more than some people. I might order 50 cases, but that doesn't necessarily mean I always have the best prices, because I need that volume.
Yeah.
If that
Well,
if that makes
it does make sense, and I think that that's one thing we should mention too is kind of, and this is sort of like a big picture, sort of just how the hockey hobby exists and how Upper Deck really treats breaking. Is that uh, I know Upper Deck is definitely aware of breaking, and I know they understand the value of it, but it's not really kind of officially sort of sanctioned someone like you. So a breaker like you can't have a direct relationship with Upper Deck and
no.
get boxes at 50% what I might get on Dave and Adams. And I think that that is a perception, and it's kind of a logical one. Like, you would assume that a guy
Oh
like you who would have in a lot of business world or different industries, right? You might have that type of relationship, but really Upper Deck to this point only works with directly with the certified diamond dealers, and as a breaker, you have to be a physical store, and so
yeah.
a whatnot breaker like yourself can't do that. So a big part of breaking is scratching and clawing, I assume, from multiple sources from product. Am I or for product? Am I correct there?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, that's the biggest misconception about me that people like to, make things up about, is because they think, and it does make sense, if you order 100 cases, if it's $1 million, that you should be getting those cases way less than everybody else does. But I will say this: since the last time we talked a year ago, when I was struggling trying to find things to people to buy from, this is probably hockey and Upper Deck is probably the only hobby where the more you order, the more you actually pay, which does not make sense. But yeah, I'll be the first one to say that. The price actually goes up the more that you pay.
Yeah. And
And
so
people
to kind of come
don't.
full circle, I mean, this is all interesting and kind of getting, sort of a view of sort of behind the curtain of breaking. But as a customer, is really just the answer that if I'm in a break room and I see a spot and it's $50 and there's six different products on the table, maybe just to ask and
Yeah.
and say, how did you get to $50? Not that they're gonna maybe go through their whole accounting with you, but
Oh, yeah.
a breaker should be able to justify it. And that probably at the end of the day, it's just whether you're comfortable spending, investing that money for all the factors, for the cards, the potential return, and then the, just being the entertainment side of it.
Yeah, I mean, you can go on, you can use Dave and Adams as a box price example, and you could go into a break room and you could use Dave and Adams prices, calculate up the break, and if the guy's making 100% profit on the break, I mean, there's something wrong. Like, if you're putting $500 worth of product on the table and making 500 on the break, then there's something not right there. Like, you shouldn't be
Yeah.
making no near that. So yeah, you could do the math just based off base prices on the websites.
Hmm.
But it is a job
But
too, and I think it's important to make the point that breakers need to make money. I mean,
oh yeah,
that's like any job, and it's a lot of time. You're up all night. You're sorting. You're shipping. You have
yeah,
employees to pay
yeah, yeah.
to do it. So it's not
Ah,
a charity or a nonprofit organization.
super taxes.
Um, but it just comes down to, I think, making that choice for yourself. That and so there's probably a little bit of ambiguity there that might make some people uncomfortable. But
Yeah,
a lot of people, also, like I said, just chalk it up to, well, it's fun. I and I think too, it kind of satisfies. The one thing breaking does too is you can get your hockey card fix at 12:30 in the morning, where
oh
your
yeah,
no local
yeah.
card shops open too. So part of what you're paying is for that too, right? Is that sort of immediate gratification?
It's convenient. You don't got to get up and go to the card shop. You could just, if you want a box, you could just buy it at 12:30 at night, 1 o'clock in the morning,
Mhm.
whenever you want.
And then I would assume too, just to kind of cover our bases, that let's say I'm in a break, I see a card, and then I get my package in the mail. The card that maybe a card that I thought I was getting wasn't in the package, or there's some damage. The best thing to do is to reach out to the breaker, and I would assume any good breaker would, think of their customer first and help them resolve that to a satisfactory
Yeah,
outcome.
I'd like to think I have pretty good customer service. I mean, it's tough because yeah, the right thing to do is 100% reach out to me or the breaker you broke with. There has been numerous times. It's very hard to mess up, but there is times where a couple times where I have messed up. But there's also been 50 messages where they think they got a card, but it was for the break before, that they weren't in.
Yeah.
So that's the stuff that you have to do as a breaker. Like you have to provide that customer service. Sometimes it sucks, if you waste an hour and it had nothing to do with you. It wasn't your mistake, like nothing was wrong, but there are times where something may be wrong and you should feel like you could go directly to the source, to the breaker, and he'll figure it out for you. And I definitely do that.
When I think you made an important point there, that certain platforms like Whatnot, which is very much, of course, geared towards breaking, has that those video on demand, right, where they record every break. So in the case where there is a question about a break, or maybe a discrepancy or something like that, that you have that archive to leverage, either to the customer's benefit, or in some cases, like you said, to your benefit.
That
And
was
so
probably
that's
the best feature that they did, because before they came out with that feature, you actually had to email them and they sent you the VOD in the email. So there was no way for, yeah, there was no way for a customer to watch the VOD. And now I have people that get into breaks and they'll say, nobody tag me if I hit. Like, I don't want to know that I hit. I watch it in the morning while I'm going to work. And they just buy in, go to sleep, watch the break the next day, and they enjoy it as if it was live. So I think that was one of the best features that Whatnot definitely implemented on the app.
And I'm just gonna jump in. If you hear this and he's saying VOD, it means video on demand. So it's just
Yeah.
basically the video of the break is what he's
yeah.
talking
Yep,
about.
you go to my profile. There's a tab that says past shows, and if you even just wanted to look and see any of my shows, you can literally go watch a stream right now. You can watch my stream from
Mhm.
last night.
Okay, I kind of want to transition, I think, to a really important topic that you don't really understand until you get into breaking. But it is very much like when you go into a room, like on an app like Whatnot or other apps, and there is a community there, and there's kind of a, like with any probably social community, unwritten sort of rules and norms about how to be a productive member of that community. And I don't know any other way to say it, maybe not be annoying or rude or something like that. And so what advice would you give to somebody, because that is a big part of breaking, and that's, I think, a huge part of why people do it, is the interaction, is the chat, the relationships that get forged. And some people try, whether it's trying too hard or whatever it is, they come in and you know don't really kind of fit in. I'm just
Right.
kind of curious, now that you've seen this for so long, what advice would you give people to assimilate themselves into that community?
I mean, it is probably, in my opinion, the biggest thing about breaking is the chat. Like I can easily just go live like once a week and do like 20 breaks on that one day. But I don't. I go live every day because these these people that is my community now, my friends, they come to hang out every day as if they were at 9 o'clock when I go live. It's like if they were to go to the bar, it would be the same thing. They're just coming into the room. They're coming to hang out from 9 till whenever I'm live, and they all have their own personality. They're all individual people. So when they come in the room, you know, if someone's new and they keep coming back, it's like, welcome back. Now I know who you are, and hey, how you doing? Like now, you make that little name for yourself and you develop that personality in the chat, and then everybody catches on to it. And you just, after even one night, you come back the next day and everybody knows who you are. So it's just, like I
Yeah.
said, a big get on and hang out.
I think though that can be really intimidating for not everyone's very gregarious or outgoing.
Yeah.
And so some of the things that I thought of, and you guys chime in if you agree or disagree or think of others, is just tell people, hey, here's my name is Josh. I'm a big fan of the wild. Haven't done a break before. Great to meet everybody. Right.
Yep.
Versus what we're all see some people come in and try to be the king of the chat
Yeah.
right out of the gate, and not understanding that for a guy like you who's been doing this for 18 months, that there's people that have known each other for a super long time.
They're
And
very,
yeah,
the
yeah, and it's just kind of weird when somebody comes in and tries to dominate, I guess, the
yeah,
room
yeah,
in that respect. And then the other, I guess, sort of similar advice that I would have to that is just kind of tiptoe your way into the conversation. Don't and we'll kind of get into kind of the don'ts, but I like spamming the chat is kind of one of
yeah,
the
yeah.
don'ts, that you don't want to leave 75 messages in a 5 minute span.
I mean, like you said, I like to think like my room from the outside looking in, it is intimidating because there's a lot of times where I do have, there's a lot of people in there. And like I said, they're territorial. Like if they're very defensive, like if someone comes into the chat and they have like ill intentions, like they're saying something against me, it's very, you got to calm them down because it's very like, no, nobody says that about him, blah blah blah. They're quick. But almost every night I have multiple people that come in and they say, brand new to hockey breaks or brand new to whatnot, this is my first break. And the whole chat, you'll see them, welcome to the room, welcome to the, welcome to the best hockey room here, like welcome to whatnot. They're very inviting if you enter the chat by saying something like that, like I'm new here, blah blah blah. It's like, good luck, they'll all root for you. So just, yeah,
Mhm.
just come in, say something like that, or just hang out.
And then on kind of the don'ts, like we talked about, like don't spam the chat. A big one that I've noticed is that, and I totally understand this too. And it's not just you; it's I think really any other breaker where people come in that are like very self promotional, like, "Hey, I'm a breaker. Come buy my breaks," or have it, or I'm a YouTuber, or whatever it is that you have to have respect that a guy like Breezy or any other breaker on any other platform, they've worked really hard to build that community. And it's kind of like, treat your neighbor how you'd like to be treated yourself. You wouldn't want people coming into your break room or on your YouTube channel or whatever it might be and trying to steal the audience that you've worked for from them. And is that something you deal with a lot, like where people come in and just try to?
it, it's every night. It'll never get like easier to deal with that because I mean, something like that is like the biggest slap in the face. And you guys could probably deal with it too, but it's like, if you have 100 people in your room and someone comes in and like tries to promote like I said, it's a slap in the face. It's like you're just trying to get 100 people's attention. I just had somebody do it last night, like, and sometimes I'm very rude, very quick to react, very, I get into like this mode where I'll flip out. But last night, I handle it like so calm. I'm just like, dude, if you're gonna self promote, like, do me a favor, just DM me, like, leave it out of the chat. It's very easy to come into a room of 100 and put your link in here, but it's the most disrespectful thing you can do because I never did that. I was on Twitch for 7 years, since 2015, that was like the biggest no to do. It actually, that person showed 100 people not to go in his room, because
Yeah.
I know that at least 90 of those 100 people from my community will now never touch that room. So it actually has a negative effect, and I will never go in there.
Mhm.
So things like that you want to stay very far away from.
I think too, and this sort of goes without saying, but we're trying to cover all our bases here. And most platforms that people are breaking on have their own set of community guidelines. But anything like whether it be hate or bigotry or anything like that, any kind of rude, crude, cruel type comments, they typically aren't accepted. And I think an important point that is, I think, good to know as a protection standpoint is that, like, yeah, at least you can speak to whatnot breezy, but you have the ability to silence people or kick them out if they come in and are disrespectful to your community, right?
Oh yeah, you can ban from a live stream. You can block entirely. You have all the settings right there. You can make moderators in your room to do it for you. But like you said, I talk to whatnot almost every day. So if it's ever like a further issue from there, it's like, you're gonna end up getting yourself kicked off the app and not able to enjoy anybody's shows completely, because whatnot does take care of the people that take care of them.
hmm And I think too that it's important that we've lingered on this topic a little bit, because I'll go back to sort of how do you look at the ROI of breaking? And to me, the sort of the entertainment, the fun, the being in a positive, safe, enjoyable environment is a huge part of kind of what you're really putting into that break as entertainment. That's at the end of the day, that's what this is.
Yeah, I mean, like when it comes to the entertainment thing, there's never like a time in my brain where I'll be like, okay, the break's $25, but I'm gonna add $2 for entertainment factor. You know what I it's never that. It's just, um, you know, as a customer and a buyer, you have to appreciate the rooms where not only is the break filling fast, but it's also a fun, enjoyable experience. I'm not necessarily saying you're paying more for my breaks because of that, but I would like to think you're buying into my breaks because of that, whether it's the same price as everybody or not. It's just a quick fill, quick rip, not much waiting around, and if there is waiting around, you're getting fun conversations in the meantime.
Okay, I have a couple big picture questions that I want to get to before we let you go. But have we forgotten anything? So if somebody is new to the concept of breaking, is there anything that's important that we've tried our best, I guess, to cover all our bases here? But can you think of anything, Troy or Breezy, that we should mention?
I mean, I think we covered a decent amount. Joining the chat and just having a little bit of a voice, like, even if there's 20 or 100 people in there, just get involved, get active, don't be scared. Even if you're a little nervous, like, nobody's looking at you face to face, like what we're doing right now. Sometimes it could be a little uncomfortable face to face. You're just behind the keyboard, just say
Mhm.
hello, get active in the chat, have a good time, hang out. I think that's the biggest step, is getting involved in the community.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. So if you want to participate in a break on whatnot, you do have to create an account. If you're, I don't even know, are there breakers on hockey breakers on Fanatics Live right now? Is that even a
uh
thing?
no, they're not doing Fanatics is not doing hockey right now. No, I was saying maybe eventually they will, but not at the moment. No.
hmm or whether it be a face, and we didn't talk about that, but there's lots of breakers on Facebook groups. There's lots of breaks that are done through LCS, and so yeah, you a lot of times to kind of start out, you have to create that account. And one of the advantages of an app like Whatnot is that because they are geared towards breaking, they have a lot of back end systems that streamline things for both the buyer and the breaker. Really, frankly,
Yeah.
to kind of handle the logistics of breaking, because there's, like we said, you've sent out 61,000 packages. You need really good logistics
Yeah.
to ship that much stuff. And that's versus someone that does breaks maybe on Instagram or TikTok or something like that. And I guess the other thing we should mention too is that because of sort of the questions around gambling with breaking and um, sort of how platforms are getting I guess trying to figure out how they want to assimilate it. That the rules are changing on a lot. Like with eBay, we've seen some changes. With TikTok, we've seen some changes, and so that might be something to look into too as a collector before you buy into breaks. Is sort of what's allowed on the app that I'm kind of interested in a breaker on.
Yeah, the industry is definitely changing. I don't know I don't know what route it's going, or what's going to happen, but yeah, certain breaks or certain apps are, I guess, trying to take over and have stuff that others don't or can't. So I mean, the only thing we can do is just wait and see, but there is change happening. So Fanatics is crazy.
So since you started, how would you say, because I kind of want to leave with maybe sort of like I said, the big picture stuff. And is breaking becoming more popular in your mind? Is it as a kind, and we'll try to uh, stay specifically to the hockey hobby, which is small and is much more collector driven than investor driven. So it's going to be a lot smaller than basketball or football breaks. But
Yeah.
what have you noticed over the past 18 months, and just kind of how the hobby views breaking, or how it's grown or not?
I think I think you know, it used to be not as common. There was certain breakers before even COVID that kind of just ran the whole show. They kind of had the market cornered. I think once that whole thing came about, everything got oversaturated. You can go on Whatnot, and there's just so much going on over there. There's so many people live, and that's fine. People had an idea. They wanted to start their business. I'm never knocking anybody's business. Um, in the hockey section too, it's like it seems to be like the same thing. It seems to be like they just accept people. They think they can get on, do a break. That's the easy part, and then they got to deal with all the back end stuff. So I mean, yeah, I think it's just going to be always an oversaturated thing. That's why you have to stand out. The people who have already built up the following are kind of grandfathered in. So hopefully, everything, you know, people can recognize like who the original ones were, and I don't know, just
Mhm.
it seems like an easy job, right? Like that, I guess that's the misconception. Like it seems easy to do until like you start doing 1,000 packages a week, and you need an office and a storage unit and 10 employees, and it's not just you breaking from your basement anymore.
Oh yeah, no, totally get that. And I guess I did think of one thing that we probably should mention that is actually really important, part particularly in the hockey space, is that if you are interested in getting into breaks, and because so many collectors are in Canada, there's a big portion in the US, there's a lot of people in Europe that are interested in. I think it's really important to understand sort of like where and how much it costs to get the cards shipped to you. And I know, like, because I remember, and I think it's gotten better with Whatnot, but the very early days, or I Whatnot had been around a little bit, but when I know when we started paying attention and you started breaking, it was cost prohibitive to be a Canadian and join one of your breaks because the shipping was so much, which is crazy because 80% of the hockey cards are bought in Canada. So I mean, and I know Whatnot's worked on that a bit, but that international shipping thing is a big deal, isn't it?
It is. So like that's the one thing I'm trying to change right now, just to be fully transparent. Like when I first started on Whatnot, it was about $32 shipping to get anything from Canada. So if they I don't even know how they bought from me. If they bought a $20 break spot, it was 32 to get it shipped to them. Then now they did it, they lowered it. It's about 15 for shipping. The main thing that I've learned over the last couple months is it's not just the shipping, it's the exchange rate and it's the duties fees when it gets to
Yeah.
customs. So
But I think that that's important for people just to understand, is that you need to ask the breaker where are they located, and make sure that and if you're not in the same country, because that does add in a huge amount of variables into the
oh yeah,
and potential expense, to ask them, well, how do you handle shipping? Typically if I'm in Canada and the breakers in the US, how much does it cost? How long does it typically the card take the cards to get to me? Is there tracking? All these sort of things. You want to make sure that you get those questions answered before you plop down your money for a break spot, because you want to know what you're buying.
Right. No,
So
100%. It's gonna, if I'm from the US and you're from Canada or overseas somewhere, like it's gonna take longer than 2 days to get your package. So you just have to know that. And when you do order on Whatnot, you get the email with the tracking. Best thing to do is just stay up to date with it. It's gonna get there. Just track it. See when it gets to customs. Pick it up if you need to. They make it pretty user friendly, as long as you're dealing with the right person.
sounds awesome, man. Well, we've taken your time, Breezy. I know you're busy. I'm sure you got breaks coming up soon. So I want to be very respectful of that and really appreciate you joining us today. And hopefully, anyone that's listened or watched on YouTube, this has given you a decent overview as to kind of what breaking is, how it works, what the different types of breaks are. So that if it is something that is of interest to you, that maybe you have a little bit more confidence going forward. And I think honestly, to sum it up, and Troy, I'll let you kind of add your closing remarks here too, but it's just ask questions. Don't be afraid to, and if a breaker's not willing to answer your questions, then that's a red flag that you probably
Yeah.
should run and find something else.
I'm a human. Don't be scared. I do the same thing everyone else does. I'm just on camera opening the cards. Just ask.
Yeah, that's my big thing too. Because when we started all this and I started going into breaks, I had no idea what was going on. I kind of figured out, but I just was like so blown away and kind of confused. Ask questions, you figure it out. Any breaker worth of salt will give you information, will answer your questions. If they don't, like we said, run away. You don't want to be involved in that.
If they don't answer the simple questions, just get the hell out of there. Seriously, like they just don't care. Are you guys going to Toronto?
Oh yeah.
The Expo?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll be
Oh, yeah.
there. Me and both
Good.
be there. We got to out there, so we'll hang
Nice.
out.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, Breezy. Thanks so much, man. Really appreciate you. Keep working, keep grinding, and we'll kind of again look forward to kind of following your growth as well. And you've earned everything that you've gotten, because we know how hard you work.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
yeah, we'll hope to talk to you soon.
yeah, because we started at the same time. So next time I'm interviewing you guys.
There we go. There we go.
All right.
Thank
All right.
you.
Well, that's it for this episode of Hockey Cards 101. We'll be back hopefully sometime soon in the future with part 7. And be sure to tune into the Hockey Cards Gong Show podcast every Monday. Geez, do I know when our own show is, Troy? Every Monday and Thursday. Episodes drop at 3 a.m. Eastern time. Bye, guys.